Wait until you see what I did with this shower curtain. I grabbed some 1/2-inch PVC pipe and fittings. I connected the 7-foot piece with an elbow and one of the 3-foot sections, and then I added a T-fitting to the bottom of the 3-foot section and connected another 3-foot piece straight down and a 7-foot one across. At the bottom, I connected another T-fitting with the 1-foot piece and the 2-foot piece on either sides. I repeated the same layout for the other side and then stood it up. Although it did stand okay, I would recommend trying 1-inch PVC pipe for a more sturdy base. Then I added a plain white shower curtain with shower curtain rings that I had thrifted. I grabbed some fishing line and I tied it to the top of the PVC, and then I tied dry florals to it about 1 foot apart, going all the way down. I left about a foot or so gap at the bottom so the flowers didn't hit the floor. I love how you can customize this photo backdrop to whatever your party, wedding, or event theme is. I hope this inspires you to get creative with PVC pipe and shower curtains. Thanks for watching Home Talk, and see you in the next video.
First thing we're going to need to do is take a pool noodle and just put a slice right down the center of it. We're going to use this to add it on top of your hula hoop. So I'm just going to take a couple zip ties just to make sure I secure the pool noodle onto the hula hoop. Now we're gonna go ahead and add some florals to the hula hoop. And I'm just gonna take a zip tie and zip it on. Next, we're gonna just go around and fill in all the other places with some beautiful florals and greenery because we wanna cover up the pool noodle. Now I've taken a ribbon and had 3 strands cut evenly and tie this onto here so that way this design will hang.
I'm going to start with a zip tie, and I'm going to place that on the top of my chair and secure it like so. I'm going to take my cutters, I'm going to trim the stem and snip it. We're going to just snip them off into smaller pieces. Now we're going to take our greenery that we've already pre-cut, and we're going to work them in opposite direction. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our sunflowers. I'm going to place one in one direction, another in the opposite direction, and our third kind of somewhere in the middle. We also have a few of those leaves that we can work in at this point too. And I'm just feeding the zip tie through my hand and securing it from the front and snip off the excess. Now I'm going to take an extra zip tie and secure it to the original zip tie and the swag itself. Now it's time to fluff this out.
I'm going to just start and wrap this over and under the front edge. I'm going to take my wisteria and I'm going to lay it here the way I want, and then I'm just going to take zip ties. Those will hold securely even in the wind. I'm just going to tuck that down out of the way for right now. Now these are more like a wisteria bush, and I'm going to spread this out a little, and I'm just going to add this one right to the middle in the front right here. And I'm just going to continue to add these right along the front like so. I bought some beautiful silk peony bushes, and I'm going to cut them apart, spread these out, and I'm going to tuck these right in for some beautiful color.
I found these candlestick holders. Now I'm going to come back in with a very generous amount of hot glue. So after giving that a few minutes, we can design with some flowers and greenery. And lastly, our element of surprise, and that involves a charger plate. Here we have a child's hula hoop that we picked up at the dollar store. So in order to secure our flowers, we're going to have to work in a pool noodle. And all we're going to do is cut through one side of the pool noodle. So what we're going to do is open it up and work it right inside the hula hoop. And we're going to circulate the pool noodle all the way around. So once you get all the way around, you're going to notice that we have a little spot missing. We're going to cut into a second pool noodle and do the same exact process. We can just take some tape and we're going to secure the 2 pieces together. Now I just have some white satin ribbon. To secure it, I'm going to use a couple floral pins, and I'm going to add some hot glue to the ends to really make sure it's nice and permanent. Now what we can do is start wrapping this. Now it's time to enhance this, and all we're going to do is snip off each individual stem. I added a generous amount of hot glue, and all we're going to do is just lift up the ribbon and poke it right in. Up next, we have some dogwood flowers. Now I have this hanging foliage, so we're going to take it, add a little bit of hot glue, just working it underneath the ribbon. To hang this up, I'm going to use some of our wire.
Head to your local Dollar Tree and grab a candlestick, some small plastic plates, a styrofoam block, and some floral pieces. First, you'll want to attach the top of the plate to the candlestick. I just use simple hot glue for this. Then you're going to want to spray paint the piece to the color of your liking. Let it dry completely and then attach the styrofoam block to the finished paper plate. I use B7000 glue for this. Then remove all the stems from the floral pieces using wire cutters. You can then attach these floral pieces into the styrofoam block all around the plate.
Just what I need for my latest project, hula hoops. Take some metallic paint that's made for plastics. I'm going to paint these gold. Now you're going to want to get some kind of a clear sealer spray with a light coat of the glaze. Right here, we're going to drill a hole in each side. I'm going to put one hoop inside the other and try and line up my holes where I have drilled. And I'm going to go outside and push all the way through, and then I'm going to push it through the next one. So I have it through 2 hoops. There we go. I have it through all 3, and then before it slips back off, I'm going to put a nut on that. And when I paint these, this will get painted also. I'm going to take a dollar store decorative cake tray and put a small hole in it. It's on high temperature, and I'm just going to put it right in the middle of there. And that is probably all we need. And now I'm going to try and put this right over top of that. Take some Gorilla Clear Grip contact adhesive to secure the plate right here to my hula hoop. And I'm going to put a generous amount wherever these hoops meet. I have just hung it from my garage door with some wire. So now I can go to work on the easy part. The construction of this was the hard part.
Grab 2 paper towel holders and some faux flowers from the Dollar Tree. Press a foam block down into one of the paper towel holders. Flip the other paper towel holder over and press it into the foam block again. Attach the 2 paper towel holders with some floral wire or some zip ties. Cut the large stems from the faux flowers and start placing the flowers all over the foam block. Grab another foam block and repeat this process. Finish this easy centerpiece by hanging some faux crystals for some extra glam. Hot glue that foam block on top of the paper towel holder.
I grabbed this big hula hoop from Five Below. So I'm going to take this first one, place it there. We're going to do the same thing to a second one, and we're going to place this in an opposite motion. We're going to place this on either end again. Just take our zip tie, and we're going to keep the pointy end towards the surface. We're going to just snip off our ribbon, and now it's time to create the main portion of our bow. So this is non-wired ribbon. It is a little bit different to use as it doesn't hold its shape, but after making about 3 to 5 loops on either side, we're going to have the perfect bow, and that is good enough for me. Let's finish our final loop. To secure our bow, we're going to use a piece of wire. Take our tails that we pre-cut and just tuck them underneath our bow. Twist it secure. We can just secure that right on top of the zip tie and tie that wire together. We're going to just lift up the greenery we've already worked in, tuck it underneath, and use another zip tie to keep that in place.
First, I headed to the Dollar Tree and picked up 2 of these colanders and some zip ties and spray painted both colanders with some spray paint. Next, I used an awl and poked 3 holes in each of the colanders. Starting first on the top colander, I fed a long piece of cotton twine through a hole on the right side and fed it through a hole on the other side. Then I rotated the colander 90 degrees and fed another piece of twine through a hole a few inches from the top. I then placed the other colander on top, then fed the zip ties through those holes, starting on the inside and finishing on the outside. Next, I gathered all my flowers and greenery and started removing them from their bundles and cutting the stems to a shorter length so they would fit better in the ball. Then I started sticking the stems through the holes. Next, I secured everything with hot glue.
I've pre-soaked 1 brick of fresh floral foam. We're gonna just take that and wedge it in. Now begins the fun part, and that is going to be carving your foam into kind of a conical or triangular shape. Right here we have some mini carnations. So I'm just gonna snip off the top and start placing them. So the biggest ones are sticking out the furthest, and then as we kind of approach the top, we are gradually getting smaller so that we kind of create that conical topiary shape. So to create the very peak of our topiary, we're gonna take a carnation, place it sticking straight out, and then we can begin filling in. So I placed a few more pieces to fill in any of the holes where you still see the foam. So we're gonna start with some bricks of dry floral foam. This is a glue skillet. And then we'll take those 2 bricks and we're going to stick them together. Now that we've given it a minute, now we can come back in with more hot glue and we're gonna secure this to the base of the container. Now we'll give this a minute to harden up. Now we have this beautiful hanging geranium bush. So we're gonna start by taking the stem and just working it right into the styrofoam. Up next, we're gonna work in some delphinium. Now we have some of these pretty pink flowers. So these are just inexpensive filler bushes. And to bring out a little bit more pink, we're gonna use this ranunculus bush. So we're just gonna take this whole bush, find the perfect spot, and then we can separate the flowers.
Here I am at Dollar Tree. I'm going to start this project with a couple of grease splatter screens. Take the screen off. We have this little cone, so I'm just gonna cut that. So this is just a Dollar Tree candle holder, and we have our piece of foam, and then we have the 2 metal rings. I want to cut Gorilla Clear Grip and hot glue because I want it to stay. You want the pretty side on the outside. A little mini glue stick cut in half gave it a little bit more support, put down in there. And I'm just going to take and wrap that right around a generous amount of hot glue on the back of the acrylic gems. But I think I'd like to add a row of them down here also. I'm gonna put hot glue right down on our mirror. And I have one of these small discs of foam like you can get at Dollar Tree, and I'm gonna put that right down on there. I have all kinds of these pink Dollar Tree roses, and you're gonna cut them off and then add a little dollop of hot glue, and we're just going to stick these right to the foam. I want to put our candle in there.
Head to Dollar Tree and a thrift store to pick up gems, fake flowers, floral foam, margarita glass, and a clear glass bowl. Take the margarita glass and turn it upside down. Glue the bottom of the glass and the bottom of the bowl together. Secure the foam to the base of the bowl and then add flowers and gems around the base.
I picked up 2 of these paper towel holders from the Dollar Tree. So I'm going to turn one upside down, and I am going to zip tie these together really tightly. So here we are, and I'm just going to cut these off. I'm going to paint my whole thing gold. I bought these 4" by 4" photo frames from the Dollar Tree that have gold glitter around them. And then I bought these mirrors that are 4" by 4". I am going to hot glue them. I'm going to take and glue these to one another and take out all of the little easels that hold up the picture frames. What I'm going to do is put my glue gun on low temperature, and I am going to stick this piece of styrofoam on top of this piece of styrofoam. We're going to take our paper towel holder that we have painted, and we're going to push that right down in there. I'm going to add a bead of hot glue, and then I'm going to secure it with some S-pins. I have some acrylic crystal drops and some very fine wire, and I'm going to feed some of these acrylic crystal drops onto my wire. And you're going to hang them right on the top part of your paper towel holders, and you're just going to twist that. I have almost a 7" craft chrome. Slide it right over top. I'm going to add a bead of low temperature hot glue and some S-pins. I'm just going to take each individual little floret off of them using low temp glue. I'm going to add just a little bit of glue, and I'm going to start covering my styrofoam ball. And what I need to do now is decorate this bottom part right here.
I found this fun shower curtain. I'm going to start by painting the table. Use a utility knife and run it along the edge. I want to seal the paint to protect it. Put a layer of Mod Podge all over the glass, and now I'm going to lay the shower curtain onto it. I want to trim off the excess, add one more layer of Mod Podge over the top for added protection. This little table is so cute now, perfect for sunny days on the balcony.
Get this clay pot sealer and give it a nice gentle spray. Give them a coat. This Rust-Oleum, this silicone glue, waterproof, flexible. Pull my jute rope right into it. So I'm going to do the same thing right there. Open up the silicone. Put this all around the top, centered right on there. There there we have my side table. I think this is exactly what you might want to make this summer.
To start, I'm going to need a wood crate, and I'm going to give this a good coat of paint here. So I'm going to flip that desktop over. Then I'm just going to drill some holes and add some screws. To dress it up, I'm just going to add a table runner, faux greenery, some lemons, and a few candles. I'm adding some cushions to the ground, and this makes the perfect outdoor seating area.
And grab some planters right off the shelf, some primer, and some textured finish. We're gonna go with this square base. So we're gonna put some glue here right around the edges. And I'm just gonna wipe it around the edge just like this. Put it right on top. This waterproof container right here, flip it over. I can just take the glue now and just put it all inside here. Go ahead and take our pot, put it right inside there. We're gonna go ahead and put some glue right on top. Wanna make sure that we get it just centered perfectly. And I wanna put on a good coat of primer. I went with an off-white cream color, get every square inch. Look at how good that looks right at your front door.
So this is the old footboard and headboard. I removed the wheels, measured the footboards, and now I'm using a jigsaw to cut down the line. Turn my footboard over and cut from the top. I trimmed off the top piece as well. I cut out the third spindle on each piece. Using a drill, I drilled 3 pilot holes to secure the screws tightly in place. I did this in the exact same way I did the other side. I cut 2 pieces of wood. I placed my wood pieces in place. I used a miter saw to cut all the vertical pieces. I placed them vertically. I wanted to paint my bench first before fixating them. I placed the vertical slats in place. I secured the slats into place. Now that my bench was completed and finished, I placed it here on the porch.
tired of your dingy old shower curtain and looking for a way to give your bathroom a little upgrade? Well, thrifted bed sheets might just be the answer you're looking for. For this project, I first headed to the thrift store in search for pretty tablecloths, curtains, and top sheets and found a few pieces I liked. To create my own shower curtain, I first cut the king-size top sheet down to 74 inches by 74 inches, leaving the top lace portion intact. Then I hemmed the two sides by first folding and pressing the fabric a 1/2 inch, then another 1/2 inch, then sewing the hem down with a straight stitch. I then hemmed the bottom by folding and pressing the fabric up a 1/2 inch, then 1 inch, and sewed it again with a straight stitch. Then I used my buttonhole foot on my sewing machine to sew 12 buttonholes. Once those were sewn, I used a seam ripper to cut open the holes. Then I had a homemade shower curtain, but I wasn't done yet. First, I took the tablecloth and cut off the sides with the pretty lace. Then I cut 2 strips of fabric from a curtain panel and 4 strips from a twin flat sheet that were 8 inches wide and the length of that particular piece. The goal was to have 3 pieces of fabric that ended up being about 8 inches wide by 114 inches long. Next, I sewed together 2 of the floral fabric strips on the short ends, then laid it on top of the shower curtain, right sides facing each other, then laid the strips so the non-hemmed edge started at 6 inches from the bottom of the curtain, then I pinned the fabric in place. I pinned the fabric in place towards the right side of the curtain, then measured in 3 inches and folded the fabric onto itself about a 1/2 inch and pinned it. Then I measured over another 3 inches from the left edge of the previous fold, then folded the fabric onto itself again and pinned it. I continued this all the way down the width of the shower curtain. I sewed the strip down using about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then I folded the fabric strip down so the bottom edge of the strip lined up with the bottom edge of the shower curtain. Then I pinned it in place, making sure it laid really nice and flat. Then I sewed down the top of the strip with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I added 1 last strip of floral fabric on top of the second strip, then came the trim piece. Before adding the trim piece, I found the center of the shower curtain and placed a pin to mark it. Then I added the piece of lacy tablecloth to the shower curtain, lining the center of the large lace piece with the center mark. I folded the top edge down under the strip to create a hem. Then I sewed a top stitch to the trim piece using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Next, I trimmed the overhang pieces a bit, then folded them over the back to match up with the hemmed shower curtain, pinned them in place, then sewed them using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Now I have a unique, upgraded, and upcycled shower curtain made using only second-hand materials.
All right, guys, so first thing we're gonna do is we're going to make a little bit of a nice loop-de-loop extra. Almost gonna look like it is folded over, like those burlap curtains, but we're gonna take pre-existing shower curtains to make this a little bit easier. So this right here is one that's been folded over a couple times, and this is my second one. Same shower curtain, super cheap and inexpensive. So then what I want to do is I want to find out how much I want it to look like it's overhanging. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up the little grommets up here, just like this, and then figure out how far down I want it to hang. So make sure you're holding just yours. These are folded in 4, so make sure it's nice and folded so you don't get any mess ups there. I'm gonna go about here. Of course, this is folded over. I may not get the most perfect cut, but we're gonna be hemming this, so I'm not exactly worried about getting the most perfect cut. Here I am, am I finally in frame? There we go. All right, cutting, cutting, cutting. Easy peasy. Okay, so now we have all this fabric to work with at some other date and time with whatever we want to do. And we have this awesomeness, which is going to act like this cute little sham over here. So now we need to hem it. You can sew it, but girl, I get a sewing machine and I'm not really good at sewing. So I'm gonna use the hem tape. I did want to say that I did pre-wash this fabric before I started to make sure that the hem tape stays, and I dried it and ironed it, making sure that I'm not going to have any crazy folds. So you can go get this hem tape. It just needs an iron, or you can use liquid fabric. Some hot glues are okay to do this with if it's like a Gorilla Glue, but guys, this is super simple. All you're going to do is push this to where the back is up, because we're going to be folding it to the part you do not want to see. Right? If you have a pattern and you can easily fold on the same spot in the pattern the whole time, don't worry about marking it. If you don't and it's a solid color, you may want to take some chalk and mark it an even way down the whole time. You're going to take this right here, fold it over on the line of your choosing. Is that good? This is it right here. And you're going to take your hem tape right here, put it right there in between, just like that. Make sure the line's solid. Take your iron, and then you're going to iron it down. I do not have a towel down or an ironing board, so I'm gonna do this really quick off camera, show you what it looks like. It's super fast. All right, guys, first thing we need to make are our little tassels. You can buy these at the store, but it's so much cheaper to make them. It's so easy to make a tassel. I have the thread color of my choosing. You can also use yarn or whatever you're wanting. I figured this would hold up better in a bathroom. This is super simple. Hold your hand like this, go like this, wrap. Make sure you count so you know that each one is about the same width. I'm gonna do 20. 1, 2, 18, 20. When you get to the last piece, just kind of hook in your pinky there, leave a little bit of string so it doesn't pop up on you. Then you're gonna grab a second string just like this, slip this out just a little bit to where there's like a little space between your pointer finger and your middle. Slip it through, super simple. And then you just tie these two together. All right, and then again, and if you want this middle section to be thicker, you just have to wrap more thread around it and you'll have a little bit of a, that's not the look I'm going for now, but if you want to do that, you totally can. You just wrap this around. So now this is your top, and the bottom, you're just gonna go like this, bum, bum, ba. All right, and then that extra little dangly piece, make sure it is about the same length as the others, and cut off any little straggles that are not wanting to be there. As far as these two guys right here, we're gonna cut them down closely, but don't break the knot, of course, to the knot. So there's our tassel, and we're gonna make a bunch of these to put on, as many as you would like to put on. So we're gonna do that. All right, guys, I got that hemline. Check this out. I think it's gonna look super cool. Again, we don't have to adhere this to the main curtain because it's just gonna be hung together. So now we're gonna create a cool little hem thing here to make it look a little more stylish. If you wanna use that lace, totally cool. I bet that would look so gorgeous. I'm gonna use this because I'm going for like a farmhouse glam kind of vibe here. And then my tassels. So here are my tassels. Super cute. You could, buy them, of course, if you want to, or make them. In order to do this and adhere it, you can do a couple different things. The first is you can use the same heat bond hem tape with your iron, or you could use your fabric glue. I'm actually going to use hot glue because I love it. A special type of hot glue, like Gorilla Glue, that is going to be well on clothes, or fabric, I should say, and stay without too much of an issue. So all you have to do, guys, this is super simple. Line it up on the side, line it up on the bottom, and then you'll just go the whole entire length of it. Super easy peasy. If you'll notice, I did fold over the edge of the ribbon here, so it's got a nice even hem, and you just start here at the beginning, making sure it's lined up on both corners there. Lift it up hem to hem, put the line right there, not too much because you don't want it to go over. Push it on, really make sure it's great. And then all I'm gonna do is put a line here and a line here and kind of keep the middle open. I'm gonna do this the whole way down. And then we're going to add our tassels. So whenever you add your tassels, I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys that now. You have different options. You can always sew them on by taking this little loop and letting them dangle. That's super cute, but girl, again, I don't want to sew. So all I'm gonna do is see how I want them. You can have them hanging from the top like this. I think this is super cute, the length of it, or maybe put it down here so it kind of dangles a little bit more. Which one do I like the best? Do I like it in line with the top? Maybe like this, maybe? Oh, that's super cute too. I think I want to have it in line with the bottom here. I'm just going to put a little drop. Make sure that you're using the right kind of hot glue if you do use hot glue, because hot glue can come undone with the heat of your shower. So you want to make sure you can get like a high temp glue or like that Gorilla Glue. So that's what we're looking at. We're just gonna continue, and if you're not really sure how many of these to make, you may wanna start, put one on one end, one on the middle, one at the end, and continue on from there and see how many you wanna make. I absolutely love how this looks. I'm gonna go ahead and finish this, and then I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna hang it up. Guys, we're almost done. Super simple, glam, look how cute. All right, guys, so now we're gonna hang it up. I'm gonna show you super simple how you hang it up. I'm sure you guys can figure this out. Make sure that your little valance thing is hanging in the front. Make sure that your regular curtain is hanging behind it. And then your liner, whatever you have, the clear or colored, is behind that one. Snap it into place, and it's gonna look so good. Let me give you guys a peek of the whole thing put together. Guys, ta-da! Here it is in all its glory. I super duper love it. I love the way that it has a little hangover here, and I love the way it has little tassels. You can totally add more tassels. You can totally make this wavy or chevron or however you want it. I super duper love this. Maybe put some tassels on the bottom if you wanted to. I love how simple and easy this was.
I scoured Amazon for the perfect shower curtain. I want to make sure I leave enough hanging over. I'm going to give the table a quick coat of paint and sew them all the way around. Thread a piece of twine through the pocket I created. It's time to put the new cover on the table. I'm absolutely loving this custom tablecloth.
Start by sanding your table. Begin painting. Grab some sandpaper and sand to distress. Roughly cut the fabric to size. Grab some hard coat Mod Podge. Apply your fabric to the top of the table, trimming it. Add your Mod Podge on top. Repeat this process on any other part of the table, and now it's a fun, whimsical focal point to my space.
You're gonna need 4 of these canvases, and we're gonna turn them upside down, run a line of glue, then we're just gonna push these 2 together here, put a staple across the gap to take off the clamps, gently flip this over, and I'm just gonna add a few staples, place it over the canvas, and just cut straight up. Okay, now we're ready to attach it and put in a staple. We have this beautiful piece of art.
I found this fun shower curtain. I'm going to start by painting the table. Use a utility knife and run it along the edge. I want to seal the paint to protect it. Put a layer of Mod Podge all over the glass, and now I'm going to lay the shower curtain onto it. I want to trim off the excess, add one more layer of Mod Podge over the top for added protection. This little table is so cute now, perfect for sunny days on the balcony.
You're going to start with a pillow insert, get a shower curtain. So I'm gonna make mine 15 inches. For the back side of the pillow, we're gonna create a pocket. What we're gonna do is we're gonna cut this fold in half. I'm gonna fold it about 1/2 inch. You're just looking to create like a really clean edge. You can use glue instead. So that side is finished. You want the presentation sides to be facing each other. And then the other part where we stitched, they're gonna basically overlap. Wrap it around a couple times, hold at the base, flip it right side out, and I'm gonna wrap around the back. I'm gonna attach it to this double side seam that we created, wrap it around the buttons, and you have a new waterproof pillow to put outside.
Clear your space and hang up a shower curtain. Set up your equipment, add some lounge chairs, and when it gets dark, enjoy a snack while watching a movie. I cut 4 rectangles of fabric. I hot glued the edges and folded underneath to create a seam. I set them on my table, and the great thing is they're waterproof. I hung 2 command hooks up on each corner using 2 tension rods. I placed 1 curtain on each of them. I placed the tension rods onto the hooks, and we had curtains. I found a shower curtain at a thrift store. I placed my pillow on top of the shower curtain. I hot glued 3 of the 4 sides together. I measured adhesive hook and loop fasteners on the last opening. Now I can open and close the pillowcase to take it off and clean it when it needs it. I cut out both pockets, and these will become pen and pencil holders. I cut off the bottom of the 2 legs. I hot glued the pocket on 3 sides. You could add colored pencils and an art pad. If you're using the insert, I placed it on my shower curtain and cut around it. I placed the shower curtain section inside my frame. I hung it up as wall art, and it doubles as a message board.
tutorial is going to teach you how to make a full-size frame, but you can also cut this down to fit the wall space that you're working with. My husband is going to be helping me because this is a rather large project, so you need 2 sets of hands. Today, we're actually going to be cutting this. As far as wood, what you're going to need to build the frame itself are just 4 1x2 pieces of wood. We cut ours down to size. You can make them as long as you'd like if you want a nearly square, huge piece of art. You know, you obviously need longer pieces, but we just cut this down because we want ours to be 36 inches for the space that we're actually working on. One thing that we discovered today is we bought 1x2s, and just with the heat that we've been experiencing, they even warped in the small amount of time that we had them outside. So when you're choosing wood, make sure they're really straight before you put them in your cart and walk them up to the front. Now we need to join all 4 of the frame boards together. The best and most precise way to do that is using a pocket jig. We're using a Craig jig. There are so many on the market. It's a super popular tool. The whole idea is that you want to create an angle but not come through the other side. So in order to make sure we don't drill too far, we've set the collar here so it will plunge in and stop the drill bit. So we're going to get started. Now we need to do the other side. Okay, so we put 4 holes total, not in all the boards, just on the 2 short ends. And you can do the same if you have a big square frame as well. Just make sure you have holes at the top, holes at the bottom on the 2 end boards. So now we're going to put it together. We're going to take the drilled boards and just set them right on top of those that don't have a pocket hole. And now we're going to attach them. Okay, our frame is finished, and we cut our shower curtain down to size to fit the frame, and now we're going to staple it. It's probably a good idea to double check whatever design you have on your shower curtain and make sure it's centered inside the frame. So that's what we're actually doing here before we start stapling. If you want to be super precise, you can cut off some of the excess here, but just for the sake of time today, we're just going to flip it over and see what we've got. Huge piece of art for our basement. As far as hanging hardware, it could very easily just hang on a couple of anchored screws in the wall without any additional work. This is a shower curtain, cut down to size. It was really simple. It took 4 screws, a Craig jig,
It was time to switch out this floral shower curtain for a newer one, so I decided to make a dress out of it. I'm gonna start by drafting my own pattern. I really like the princess seams on this old jumpsuit that I had, so I'm gonna just trace out some of these seams. So I'm folding this jumpsuit in half, and I'm just gonna trace around the pieces of the bodice that I want to replicate. Now I'm gonna straighten my lines with a ruler and add whatever seam allowance I might need. Now I'm gonna use this pattern piece to trace out my next bodice pattern piece. So I'm gonna trace that curve for the side of the bodice piece, and then I'll measure out half my neckline width, and then I'll measure down the length of my bodice and connect the lines. And this bodice piece is gonna be cut on the fold. Now I'm gonna lay out this beautiful shower curtain and fold it in half right sides together. And I'm just drawing out a skirt piece on the fold, so I only need to draw out half of the skirt piece. So I'm gonna measure out the width of my waist plus some extra room, and I'll measure out the hemline, and then I'll just connect it down the side. Now we can go ahead and cut the first skirt piece out. And I'll lay that piece down to cut out a back skirt piece. All right, now we should have 2 skirt pieces ready to go. Now I'm gonna take more of my shower curtain fabric and fold it in half, and we can start cutting out our bodice pieces. So I'm gonna cut this main bodice piece on the fold, and I ended up making mine a little bit longer because I felt like my bodice pieces were a little bit too short. And now I'll cut out 2 pieces for the other bodice pieces. Once I lay them out, they'll make a little bit more sense how they're gonna connect. So we have the front bodice, and then we have the 2 pieces for the side of the bodice, making these beautiful princess seams that just contour the body. Okay, I'm gonna start by connecting these princess seams. So I'm just laying the 2 side bodice pieces on top of the front bodice piece, right sides together, and I'm just gonna connect them along the princess seams. Then we can go ahead and sew those pinned edges. And now we have this beautiful front bodice. I'm just gonna press it with my iron. Now I'm gonna lay that front bodice piece down on some new fabric, and we're gonna trace out a back bodice. It's gonna look just like the front one minus the princess seams, so I'm just tracing it all around. I'm gonna add whatever extra room or seam allowance I might need. The most important thing is we just wanna make sure that these are the same length at the side seams because that's where they're gonna connect. And now we can cut that back bodice out. Okay, taking the last bit of my fabric, I'm gonna measure out 2 long waist ties, and then I'm gonna measure out 2 shorter shoulder straps. Once I get these pieces cut out, now we have 2 long waist ties and 2 shoulder straps. Okay, moving back to the skirt, we're gonna go ahead and connect them at the side seams. So I'm just laying the front and the back skirt pieces together, right sides together, and I'm gonna pin them and sew them along the side seams. Now for the top edge of my skirt, I'm actually gonna sew a basting stitch across the top. And this is just an extra long stitch. And you just wanna leave long threads at the beginning and the end of the seam, because when we pull on these threads, it's gonna cinch that waist in. It's a super cool cinching technique, and all you need is a basting stitch. I'm just gonna cinch this in enough to be the width of my eventual bodice because we're gonna be connecting it at the end. Now I'm taking my waist ties, and I'm gonna go ahead and fold them right sides together and pin them and sew them along the long edges. I'm also closing one end of each waist tie, but we wanna leave one end open. Now I'm gonna make a really fun shoulder strap detail. So I'm gonna measure out the length of my shoulder strap, but I'm making this a little bit curved on one end and kind of tapered in at the end. It's kind of an odd shape, but you'll see what I do with it in the end. I'm gonna cut 2 pieces out. Now I'm gonna take the curved end and I'm gonna run it through my serger. And this is gonna give it a nice finished edge, as you can see. For the straight end, I'm going to go back to my basting stitch, so just an extra long stitch on my sewing machine, and I'm gonna baste them along the straight edges. Okay, as you can see, the basting stitch kind of already started gathering these shoulder pieces, so I'm just gonna gather them even more, just like we did with the skirt. I'm just gonna pull on the threads until it gathers up all nice and neat, and then we can go ahead and cut all of those loose threads. Now I'm gonna take that little frilly shoulder piece and sandwich it in my shoulder strap. So I'm gonna pin it to my shoulder straps, right sides together. I'm just gonna sew along that straight edge.
Once that frilly piece is sewn on, we can go ahead and press it and sandwich that frilly piece in the shoulder strap. So I'm just folding the shoulder strap over and pinning it down and sewing. Once our shoulder straps are done, I'm gonna take a safety pin and I'm gonna pin one end of the shoulder strap, and I'm gonna feed that safety pin through the strap and pull it through the other end, and this should flip it right side out. Now we can press our straps, and we have the cutest shoulder straps with this little ruffle detail. I'm also gonna flip the waist ties right side out as well, so I'm gonna take a knitting needle, and I'm taking the not sharp end, and I'm gonna feed these waist ties through themselves, flipping them right side out and pressing them. Okay, we are almost done. I'm gonna take the front bodice piece and put the back bodice piece right sides together and pin them down the side seams. Now I'm sandwiching that waist tie in at the bottom. I'm leaving about an inch at the very bottom, and I'm gonna go ahead and pin them up the side seams. And we can go ahead and sew those side seams. And now we have our waist ties connected in our bodice pieces. I'm gonna press them a little bit. Okay, now I'm gonna hem the top edge of my bodice pieces, so I'm just folding them down, giving them a nice neat edge, and sewing. Now it's time to connect our dress. So I'm gonna take the skirt and the bodice. I'm gonna put the bodice inside the skirt to where they're right sides together, and we're just gonna connect them all along the waist, making sure that the side seam of the bodice matches up with the side seam of the skirt, and pinning it all around. And we can go ahead and sew that waist seam. Now, a little piece of advice, this fabric does fray a ton, so I was constantly cutting these little threads. And now our skirt is attached to the bodice. Now we can go ahead and attach the straps and sew them down. And last but not least, I'm gonna hem the bottom of my dress. So I'm just folding it up twice and sewing it down. I am completely surprised with how this dress turned out. It is so cute, so comfy. I'm obsessed with the little shoulder strap detail. I think the ruffles add so much to this dress, and the waist tie in the back is adorable. Overall, I'm so happy with how this turned out.